Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a massive, multi-generational paper trail of alleged real estate, probate, and conservatorship fraud. We are looking at a highly complex, deeply layered investigation surrounding the Lamantina family estate. This case weaves together missing wills, altered property deeds, alleged identity theft, and severe accusations of local court corruption. It is a labyrinth of legal and financial maneuvers that ultimately targets the assets and the identity of a U.S. Army combat veteran.
Just pause and think about that for a second. How exactly does a man sign a real estate deed 6 whole years after he dies? Right, it doesn't make sense. We're starting with this provocative question because it highlights the central, glaring temporal anomaly of this entire case. According to the investigation's paper trail, a deceased man was allegedly executing home loans and transferring property titles long after he was buried. It's an absolute physical impossibility, yet it sits right there in the official county records.
Okay, let's untangle this whole thing. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the missing estate, move into tracing the paper trail, then look at the illegal conservatorship, the missing Madera court records, and finally, escalating to federal agencies.
All right, part 1. The missing estate, a will that never reached court. So to really grasp the foundation of these allegations, we have to start with the chronological timeline of Samuel's death. Now, his actual verified date of death is August 19, 1995. But, and here's the wild part, public records show an affidavit of death was filed in 1993. That's 2 full years before he actually passed away. This glaring contradiction suggests, well, a deliberate manipulation of the timeline to alter property titles way before Samuel actually died. So what actually happened to his estate when he did pass? Well, according to the complaint, Samuel's original will and trusts were entirely hidden from the public probate court. Instead of being legally lodged, these documents were allegedly just passed privately between the father's former attorney and the mother's attorney. Guys, this is a massive red flag. It's a direct violation of California Probate Code 8200, which literally mandates that a will has to be lodged with the court clerk within 30 days of learning about a death. By completely bypassing the court, the estate was basically swept under the rug, laying the groundwork for the fraud that allegedly followed.
Moving on to Part 2, Tracing the Paper Trail, Ghost Signatures and Loans.
With the estate allegedly hidden from public view, and those standard probate protections bypassed, the property was left totally vulnerable, and allegedly it was used for unauthorized financial gain over the next 2 decades. Let's walk through this timeline because it's pretty jarring. In 1995, Samuel dies. Okay, but then in 2001, a $52,500 mortgage is executed under Samuel's name. In 2005, there's this bizarre property sale where the mother allegedly acts as both the buyer and the seller in a non-arm's-length transaction. Fast forward to 2021, and we see a massive cross-collateralized refinance loan. This was basically designed to lump multiple properties together to wash or obscure the clouded chain of title. The sheer absurdity of a deceased person executing financial contracts, that is the absolute smoking gun of this federal bank fraud allegation.
Now you might be sitting there wondering, wait, doesn't his statute of limitations apply to stuff that happened back in 1995 or 2001? Well, that brings us to a crucial legal concept, extrinsic fraud. This happens when deception or hidden documents completely prevents someone from knowing their legal rights or participating in a court case. Because the complainant was kept totally in the dark about the will and these subsequent loans, standard statutes of limitations just don't apply in the normal way. Basically, the clock pauses when you're intentionally prevented from discovering the crime.
Which leads us to Part 3, the illegal conservatorship, exploiting a soldier.
While all of this draining of the estate was allegedly happening, David Lamantina was actually serving as an active duty combat veteran in the U.S. Army. And this is where the SCRA comes in, the Service Members Civil Relief Act. This is a strict federal law built to protect active duty military personnel. It legally blocks civil judgments or court proceedings from happening against a soldier without proper notice or appointed legal representation. So while David was deployed from 2005 to 2014, the statute of limitations on his legal rights was entirely paused. He was federally protected from civil court ambushes.
But here's where we see a direct, head-on collision between federal law and local court action. While David's SCRA military protections were fully active between 2012 and 2013, the Madera County Superior Court initiated a temporary probate conservatorship over him. This court essentially stripped him of his financial rights and handed them to his mother. And they did this all while he was federally protected and allegedly without any of the mandatory SCRA default protections or legal representation.
The specific details of this conservatorship are just staggering. According to the investigation, there was absolutely no medical capacity declaration ever filed by a doctor to justify conserving him. Actually, VA medical reports confirmed the veteran was 100% competent. Yet during this 14-month legal hold, the conservator, his mother, allegedly stole $5,000 in VA disability checks. And despite having full fiduciary control over his estate, she reportedly placed the veteran in homeless housing while she traveled out of state to Hawaii. It's a total structural failure of the conservatorship system, and frankly, a terrifying look at how vulnerable anyone's assets can become if local courts just ignore federal safeguards.
Let's look at Part 4, Missing Madera Court Records, a Scrubbed Paper Trail. So how exactly does a court approve a conservatorship without a doctor's note? Well, the investigator alleges this wasn't just some clerical oversight, but an active institutional cover-up involving tampered public records within the Madera County Superior Court. Let's look at this investigator's corkboard of missing evidence for case MPR 012887. The medical capacity letter, completely missing. The mandatory fiduciary bond expired in November 2012, which was months before the conservatorship even ended. But the craziest piece of all is the court clerk name stamped on the official minute orders, Filigata Samuelu. Cross-referencing public payroll databases reveals literally zero employee records for this individual in the Madera County system during that entire time. It points heavily to a ghost clerk being used to process unverified, potentially fraudulent court orders.
This crucial point is summarized perfectly by a 2022 quote from Madera County Council. They formally asserted in writing that no standard records or active letters of conservatorship exist in their system archives for David. Let that sink in. The county itself claims to have absolutely no record of the legal hold that bound this veteran for 14 months and allowed his assets to be managed by someone else. It strongly suggests the records were either intentionally scrubbed or just never legitimately filed in the first place. So why would a court look the other way? Well, the complaint alleges deep-seated conflicts of interest. Specifically, it notes that the presiding judge, James Oakley, allegedly maintained an undisclosed prior law firm partnership with the petitioner's attorney, Steve Mortimer. When the judge and the conservator's attorney have a prior partnership and due process is seemingly entirely ignored, we're moving way beyond mere negligence here. We are stepping directly into the territory of extrinsic fraud and public corruption. This brings us to our final section, Part 5, Escalating to Federal Agencies, the Master Report. Because local agencies like the district attorney or the state's commission on judicial performance are allegedly conflicted out or just relying on those very same scrubbed records, the complainant executed a tactical escalation directly to federal agencies. This response is built into a meticulous FBI master report. Step 1. Lead with the military discharge papers to legally prove active duty status, which immediately invokes federal SCRA jurisdiction. Step 2. Highlight the scrubbed county records and that ghost clerk anomaly to prove local tampering. And Step 3. Escalate entirely past the local Madera and Fresno County jurisdictions, submitting this massive compound complaint directly to the FBI's Public Corruption and White-Collar Crime divisions. The demands in this federal complaint are incredibly aggressive and specific. They are requesting the FBI subpoena the digital courthouse server logs to see exactly who deleted or unindexed these files. They're demanding federal authorities force institutions like JPMorgan Chase to pull the original signature cards from those early 2000s loans. By utilizing FOIA requests, they are completely overriding the local gatekeepers. The ultimate goal here? To trigger massive federal charges, including bank fraud, aggravated identity theft, and federal racketeering, or RICO, charges.
And recent updates to the investigation suggest the federal probe has uncovered some truly bizarre and honestly shocking elements. According to the source material, federal investigators have allegedly secured witness corroboration from family members detailing the abuse. But even more incredibly, forensic analysis reportedly revealed that an urn supposed to contain human remains actually held animal bone fragments. Plus, crime scene DNA evidence directly contradicted fraudulent local death certificates. I mean, this exposes a cover-up that goes so far beyond simple paperwork errors.
Which leaves us with one incredibly impactful question to consider today. What happens when a local justice system is accused of erasing its own paper trail? When the very institutions designed to protect the vulnerable are alleged to be compromised, it absolutely requires an overriding federal response to drag the truth out into the light. It's a chilling reminder to always safeguard your own legal documents, and a really powerful look at why federal oversight mechanisms exist in the first place. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. We'll see you next time.